Hi, I'm Cari Stein, executive producer of To the Contrary with Bonnier Bay. This week, the Supreme Court refused to block a law, a Texas law, that is the most restrictive anti-abortion law. It prohibits abortions after 6 weeks, which is generally before women know that they're pregnant. And it gives incentives to ordinary citizens to bring lawsuits against anyone assisting a woman in obtaining an abortion. I'm here with, joined with Planned Parenthood President and CEO, Alexis McGill Johnson. And thank you for joining us for this. What is your reaction to the Supreme Court as well as to the law?
Well, we are incredibly disappointed that the court allowed SB 8 to take effect without its full day in court. In effect, Texas has turned back the clock 50 years and the Supreme Court let them get away with it. And so for the people in Texas, Roe is effectively meaningless. Yesterday, we spent a good portion of the day, all day, with our affiliates in Texas, rerouting patients, trying to test to see if they could fit within the 6-week period, as you pointed out. 85% of patients come into our affiliates for access to abortion after 6 weeks, because it's just 2 weeks after your first missed period. And the emotion, of not just the logistical burden of trying to help people navigate out of state, but the emotional burden that people were carrying as providers not to be able to provide was just tremendous. So, yesterday was an unthinkable day. Hearing from the court that they did not see injury has just made it even worse. It is really insult to injury.
What does it mean? I mean, does it mean the end? Is it the beginning of the end of Roe versus Wade?
Well, again, as I said, for Texas, it is in effect, right, meaningless because people, are just finding out that they are pregnant and are not able to have a full range of options to consider whether or not they want to carry that pregnancy to term. What it also means is that there are about 26 states that are have state legislatures that are poised to enact similar bans. As you know, there have been 600 restrictions introduced in the last year alone, in 2021 alone, 90 of which have been enacted against abortion. And so there's a lot of activity happening in the state legislatures. And if they see that the Supreme Court is willing to let this stand and not intervene, it means they will, in essence, try to create a de facto around the Constitution way of undermining Roe without the court ever having to hear the case in Mississippi. So obviously it's concern for alarm.
So it's Mississippi. Someone was telling me that Virginia is also possibly the next state to enact a law like this.
Well, there are a number of states, right? I mean, I think actually Virginia has done quite well in terms of pushing, over the last 8 years, legislation, but both flipping both the legislature as well as the governorship in ways that I think are really important. But states like Ohio, states like Arkansas, where Governor Hutchinson made it clear that he was introducing bans signing into law designed to go directly to the Supreme Court. And then, of course, we actually have a Supreme Court case, which is Mississippi versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, which is a 15-week ban. And that just goes, well, all of these go to the heart of Roe, right? They really speak to whether or not we are able to make these decisions pre-viability, or whether or not some state lawmaker who's not involved in our families at all are making these decisions.
How does this law, I mean, what is different about this law? I know most people, when they hear the part about being able to sue anyone, an Uber driver, a friend who may have given counsel, they hear that they can sue them for $10,000. I mean, does this sort of cause some sort of vigilantism against abortion?
You're absolutely right. I mean, so what's unique about this particular law is that it is the first 6-week ban to go into effect. There have been a number of bans around gestational age that have been introduced over many years, and they've effectively been blocked because they are blatantly unconstitutional. And this ban, the way they designed this law, was to evade the state from enforcing the law. Normally, you would go to the state and ask them, for an injunction against this law because it is unconstitutional. They just said the state, has created this bad legislation, but they're not the ones responsible for enforcing it. Instead, we're going to empower private citizens in any state who, could be a relative, could be an ex-boyfriend, could be someone who counsels you, your pastor. It could be an Uber driver, anybody who is involved in aiding and abetting abortion is in Texas, is subject to a fine, a $10,000 fine. And if you can prove that, you get that. So essentially it put a bounty on people who were just trying to support other, folks getting access to their constitutional right. And so it's unbelievable. Honestly, quite frankly, it's maniacal.
And even trying to defend yourself from a case like that is prohibitively expensive, I would think.
It is. It's costly. There is in terms of how the fees are shifted, you would not only would be responsible for that $10,000 bounty, but the person who's bringing the lawsuit, can if they win, their charges you would be responsible for them too. So there's a lot of disincentive built into this law for providers because of the nature of the very personal nature in which they would be responsible for having to defend any action against it. And in effect, it's had an incredible chilling effect. Providers in Texas right now are only seeing patients up to 6 weeks. There's a very small percentage of people who even know that they are pregnant at that time. And even if you do, essentially you have about a week's time to make the decision that is best for you and your family. And so the impact of this just can't be understated. It is not only impacting patients, it's also just creating this vigilante justice that is designed to sow intimidation and fear and chaos into communities.
Most Americans, there's been research on this, most Americans are for a woman's right to choose. How can something like this come to be when most Americans are against this?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for bringing that up because it is so true. 8 out of 10 Americans support safe and legal abortion. They believe that people should have access to safe and legal abortion. And yet in state after state, really for the last 10 years, when after the census, there was a significant amount of gerrymandering, as we know, that not only transformed our Congress, it also transformed state legislatures across the South and in the Midwest. And so now we have places where you have a vocal minority of lawmakers who are completely out of touch with their constituents in the state, but they are protected because of the way the districts have been drawn. And so there's no state in the union that does not have a majority of support for access to safe and legal abortion in the community. And that is the disconnect. That's what we are fighting here. The fact that these rules have basically been weaponized by conservative majorities, including the courts, as we saw Trump and McConnell remake the federal judiciary over the last 4 years, all the way up to the Supreme Court. And this is what we are facing now.
So what is Planned Parenthood doing? Are there any calls to start expanding the Supreme Court? Are there any calls for a workers' strike or anything that people can do or the government can do? It is right now, you've got a Democratic president, you've got a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate, not by a lot, but you have that. So
They are slim margins, but there are strong pro-choice majorities, including in the White House. And so it is incredibly important. We really appreciate the Biden administration's statements in the last couple of days, and particularly the whole of government approach, and looking at, whatever levers the Department of Justice and HHS have in trying to see how they can correct this unusual and really harmful ban in Texas and the private right of action related to it. We are also calling on Congress to do what it can. They have been doing everything they can around, thinking about trying to obviously repeal the Hyde Amendment, as well as pass the Women's Health Protection Act, which could codify Roe. We are also, looking to corporations. We're looking to culture to really demonstrate that, this is unacceptable for Americans. People shouldn't be doing business in Texas. People should not be, we need to be using all of the levers that we have to really demonstrate the harm that's happening to largely low-income communities, largely Black and brown communities, and trans, non-binary communities, and folks without resources. And so when you are forcing people to carry a pregnancy to term against their will, we really have to think about what that value means for us as a society.
Is there anything specific though that you're calling for?
Look, right now we're doing a few things. One, we're really focused on our patients, right? We're trying to make sure that they understand that what their options are in Texas, and then sending people to abortionfinder.org to help them navigate the states around them, because they also have very similar and onerous restrictions around them, not as egregious as Texas, but not too far off. We are encouraging people to support abortion funds, because those are the kinds of resources that people can draw on when they need to get out of state. And we are looking at every single lever on the table that we can support as an organization, along with our partners in the movement, because this is far from over. People are not going to let this stand. People are not going to go into the next year with the fear of losing this fundamental constitutional right at every turn. So we're gonna channel really, quite frankly, our sadness and our pain, our heartbreak, into rage.
Most Americans don't know a pre-Roe v. Wade world, actually, who are alive today.
Yeah. No, I'm 49. I'm younger than Roe. I've never not known a world without Roe. I mean, my entire generation is the beneficiary of folks who have fought and, laid it all on the line for us to be able to make the choices that we need to make to design our families, our lives, and our careers. So, I am calling on, really the need to build a strong multi-generational, multiracial, multi-class, alliance to really talk about what is and fight for what's at stake right now. Just the level of outrage is really palpable, because we never thought we would go back 50 years, right? And I think that it's really astonishing, and it's hitting us really, really heavy. But I believe it will be channeled in the right way.
Well, we're going to keep following this story, and we're going to be checking in with you regularly, because it is such an important story and so much going on right now. So Alexis McGill Johnson, thank you very much. And I'm going to let you get back to work now.
Thank you. I so appreciate you, Cari, and thank you for covering this really important story at this time.
Have a good day. And thank you for watching TTC Extra, and we'll be back.